I would like to welcome everybody to Inside Yonkers City Talk episode number 3. Sorry about last week. Last week we ran into some problems, but that was taken care of. Today we have Mr. AJ Woodson of Black Westchester Magazine. Mr. AJ Woodson, how are you?
How's it going?
All right. So we have a really important topic to talk about today, don't we?
Yes.
All right. So I've been following the Westchester Corrections Association within the last couple months, and their posts have increased. They weren't posting as much, but lately they have been increasing, and their posts have been very concerning. A lot of them claiming a lot of sexual harassment claims, a lot of long mandatory shifts, sexual as well as ineffective equipment. Can you tell me a little bit about that, please?
Well, the first story that I've covered from them, I've been, I get a lot of calls from the various correction officers. Most of the time, they, don't want to speak on the record. Understandably, like everything else. But
a lot of people are scared of retaliation, which is very common, unfortunately.
Right. So the first complaints that I was starting to get was about maternity leave, paid maternity leave. So officers, female officers, have to work almost their whole pregnancy, you know what I'm saying? And then they have to take their own time afterwards. And what happens a lot of times, they're working double, 16-hour shifts a day to accrue more paid leave so they can take the time off. I know, and as I started looking to it, I started talking to a couple of the county legislators that I knew. And legislator Christopher Johnson, who represents Yonkers, he said he was working on a bill. Now, this goes back, it's probably a year or so ago, well, maybe longer, but I think at least a year ago. So he was aware of it because he said his legislative aide, also a county worker, not just a jail, also had to use her own personal time after she gave birth. So he was putting a bill through. And I think we had another conversation when he was telling me he was going to put the bill through, and he was asked to hold by Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins to hold off on that. I spoke to Deputy County Ken Jenkins before that, and he was saying that it's a contract, like it'll be a contract negotiation type thing. So I did some homework. New York State, I believe it's 2016. New York State touts one of the best family leave situations for the employees, including maternity leave, and what it would take, according to what I read on the state site, is for the county to actually opt in. So they can take advantage of what the state approved. And it gives a lot of options. It gives options where they opt in, I guess, where they pay for it, or they give the officers the opportunity, to pay a little extra so they can pay for it themselves, but so they would have that right. And
now, I don't mean to cut you off, but in regards to that, I also saw that they were posting that some are not actual county employees; they're contracted by private companies. How does that work? Are they're still guards? Do they still get the same training requirement? Apparently, that these people from the private companies, they get treated way better than the actual county employees.
I don't know. I know that what I found out and heard from some correction officers is the higher up female officers, like sergeants or whatever, they're taken and put in a situation where they have no inmate contact. You know what I'm saying? While they're pregnant. But the actual female correction officers have to continue to have inmate contact. Why that's
and some have been assaulted, right?
Right. Now I was gonna say, while that's a problem, moving on, one of the second stories I covered was female correction officers talking about being sexually harassed and abused by the inmates. And when they report it, they get like, I guess they have to be out of the cell a certain amount of time or whatever. They get 1 hour less free time out of the cell. Like, that's all that happens to them. You know, there's no discipline. They're not separated or anything. And basically they can almost do what they want. I mean, sexually harassed, sexually assaulted in some cases, and, you know, have stuff thrown on them like feces and stuff, you know, thrown at them. You know what I mean? And so 2 or 3 of the county workers, and I covered this and I sent this to you, they actually testified for the county, which I think was the county execs people and the county legislators, you know, the people in the county. And they thoroughly explained how they fear for their lives, and, you know, how, you know, an officer sometimes is an officer for like 60 inmates or something, I believe. I don't quote me on that, but I think it's something like that. So, you know, that's a dangerous situation to be in. You know what I'm saying? When you're being harassed,
60 people against you. That's a lot, you know.
And you're not nothing's happened to them when you're being abused or when you make these complaints. Nothing's being done. So that being said, going back to the first issue, when you have these pregnant officers who are not removed from inmate contact, you know what I mean? The stress on, you know, a lot of stuff is not even just physical. Sometimes it's your mental.
It becomes a mental stress, you know?
Making it a harder pregnancy. And what if you have a difficult pregnancy where it requires a lot more doctor visits and stuff, but you got to work these double shifts now?
Being overstressed, also, you can have a miscarriage. You can end up losing a child.
Right. So you're working double shifts, 16-hour days, not having time to be able to go to get the doctor, the prenatal care that you would get from a doctor ahead of time. So some of the issues that we covered in the beginning. There's been a lot of other issues, but those were the 2 primary ones. And again, I know the county is aware of the maternity leave situation because I talked to a few county legislators, but Chris Johnson was the first one that I really had an interaction with. We went back and forth. We had a conversation. I alerted some of the other ones. They said they would look into it, but never got back to me. And I talked to the deputy county exec Ken Jenkins, and when I told him what I was being told, that this was a situation where all the county had to do was opt in, he said, no, this has to be negotiated by the union. And, you know, when you have these union negotiations, I mean, most of the things that the union is fighting for is more money, you know, a bigger raise.
More money. And then with the request of an increase of money, it takes even a longer time, a longer process to get it approved. So then they have to wait longer. So
a lot of some people in the union and a lot of the correction officers feel like that the deputy county exec is dangling over their head, like, we'll discuss this at contract negotiation time. But then, you know what I'm saying? We'll use that to give them a little more money to, you know, to get that situation to go where they won't be arguing as much about that. And, you know, the bottom line, you know, that's one of the biggest things in those contract negotiations is, you know, a bigger raise. You know what I'm saying? So,
of course.
And from my research, again, it's on the New York State website. I'll find it and I can send it to you later because I was reading it on it earlier. It lists that the county can just opt in, and it gives them 3